Hello, everyone. It's Ty. Today, because he's technically not out yet and I'm not privy to official information, I thought I'd do an exceptionally generic free to play Husbando guide on Mydei. Mydei is the first of our version 3 Husbandos, and I am fully here for it. He's also our first male destruction character since Misha all the way back in 2.0. From the fiery red markings on his body, his flamey cinematic animations, and everything else about him that's just so fire coded, it should come as no surprise that he's imaginary, obviously. I mean, can you imagine the shit show if he was a fire destruction character and even slightly seemed like he might be stepping on Firefly's toes? What he is apparently allowed to do is fully usurp Blade's whole deal. Mydei is a completely HP scaling character, receiving no benefits at all from attack. So here's hoping you didn't throw out all your HP percent pieces. His basic attack is pretty much irrelevant because his skill doesn't cost skill points. Instead, it consumes a large portion of his current HP to do a blast attack to a target and those adjacent for a percentage of his max HP. His ultimate heals him quite a bit, increases his charge, and does an HP scaling blast attack that also taunts the enemies it hits. What's charge, you may ask? Well, that's detailed in his talent, which is the crux of his whole kit. As he loses HP, either from taking damage or consuming it with his skill, he gains points of charge at a ratio of 1% HP to 1 point of charge. When he reaches 100 charge, he enters the Vendetta state. His charge goes back to 0, his max HP and therefore his overall damage increases, and his skill is enhanced to have higher damage scalings. However, he also drops to 0 defense and will automatically use that enhanced skill on his turn. He'll continue to accrue charge from taking damage and from using his skill, and when he reaches 150 charge, he'll take an extra turn wherein he'll use an even more enhanced version of his enhanced skill, which is still a blast attack, but with enormous damage scalings. Basically like Blade's follow-up attack, except it's explicitly designed to not be a follow-up attack, so as not to get bonuses from anything that increases follow-up attack damage. And if that's not enough, he's also immortal. While in Vendetta state, if he takes damage that would kill him, he instead heals himself to half health and merely drops out of Vendetta state. But avoid the trap of prioritizing his talent level. It only increases the amount he heals himself when entering Vendetta. While that's useful, you'll definitely want to level his skill and ult first, and definitely pick up his major traces ASAP, as they go even further to making his Vendetta state bonkers. One of them makes him completely immune to CC while in Vendetta. Another makes him even more immortal by preventing him from losing Vendetta state when he takes fatal damage up to 3 times. And the last is absolutely the best. For every 100 HP Mydei has beyond 4000, he gains crit rate, incoming healing bonus, and an increased charge ratio when taking damage from enemies. The healing and charge bonus are great, of course, but the crit rate conversion is the most important bit. At 8000 max HP, which is the maximum cap for this bonus, he gets 48% crit rate without even having to deal with crit rate substats. But yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. Mydei's been getting a lot of flack for his Autobattle mechanic, and I fully understand that. Choosing who to attack and with what is basically the only sense of involvement available with the combat system as it is, so I almost never use the autoplay button, and God forbid I should ever get that curio in Divergent Universe that forces you to autobattle. That's an immediate restart. So when I first heard about Mydei having autobattle mechanics built into his kit, I was disgusted. But after seeing him in action, really giving it some thought, and putting it into perspective, I realized it's not that big of a deal because I already have several characters who play out of my control, and I actually love them for it. The main way I made peace with it is that it's sort of like Moza. Once I set Moza on a target, he keeps attacking that target outside of my control until either it's dead or he runs out of charge. Similarly, Mydei will keep attacking the priority target on the field until either it dies or he drops out of Vendetta. Is that just me huffing an exorbitant amount of copium because he's one of the very few male characters that Star Rail will be releasing this year? Probably. But I'll still happily be pulling for him because he's quite hot, and I really enjoyed playing him in the story. For those who can't get past it, well, I guess the silver lining is that you can save for Anaxa or Phynon. For the rest of us, however, we have to gear Mydei, and as far as my calculations, the best 4-piece set for him is going to be Scholar Lost in Erudition. Do not fall into the Longevous trap. The increased HP from the 2-piece is helpful, but the 4-piece only gives him extra crit rate, which he doesn't need at all due to the 48% he gets from his major trace. If you don't have any Scholar farmed, though, you can use 2-piece Longevous and either 2-piece Wastelander or a 2-piece Speed set. It's significantly less damage, and Wastelander's a hassle to farm, so absolutely do not go out of your way for it. But if you already have some pieces kicking about, you can use them until you farm up some Scholar. Just remember that Mydei doesn't get anything from any of the 2-piece attack percent sets. As for planers, his best will definitely be the new Bone Collection's Serene Domain, which, while clearly made for someone else, fits his whole deal just as well. It gives 12% max HP, which is nice, and if his max HP is 5,000 or higher, it gives him 28% crit damage. Well, because of the 12% on the set and Mydei's base HP being so high, all he needs is an HP percent rope to hit that 5,000 HP, so the bonus crit damage is basically guaranteed. So what stats should he have on his gear? Well, the quick and dirty blurb is crit damage chest, speed boots, imaginary orb, and HP percent rope. For substats, you'll want to focus on HP percent and flat HP to get to your 8k threshold, while also having enough speed, crit damage, and even a few crit rate rolls for good measure. That's really it. On the one hand, he's actually remarkably simple to gear because most stats don't even do anything for him. Attack percent and flat attack are completely useless, as are defense percent and flat def because while in Vendetta state, his def is set to 0. On the other hand, he may end up extremely difficult to gear because he actually has stats that are actively detrimental to him. He'll want to avoid break effect because, being imaginary, if he breaks, he'll cause imprisonment, which prevents enemies from attacking, and more break effect makes it last longer, making the enemies hit him less. And effect res is also somewhat counterproductive for him. While he can benefit from it preventing debuffs that reduce his damage and the like, it will also resist dots, which results in him gaining less charge. Plus, because of his major trace, he's already CC immune, so it's really not worth using on him. That somewhat restrictive gearing extends to his light cone options as well. He unfortunately suffers as Blade does with a rather sparse selection. Your best 5-star option obviously is his signature, Flame of Blood, Blaze My Path. Not only does it have the highest base HP of any light cone currently in the game, it also further increases his HP and incoming healing. Plus, when he uses skill or ult, it consumes HP to give him a damage buff. This consumption is in addition to his normal HP consumption from using skill, so it will actually help him to speed up his charge gain and allow him to use his super enhanced skill more often. Plus, with all the HP this cone gives, it significantly takes the pressure off trying to get HP percent substats on gear. Your other 5-star option is to further strip Blade of his dignity and use his signature, the Unreachable Side, on Mydei. Sharing the second highest base HP value, it gives a mostly unnecessary increase to crit rate and a welcome increase to max HP. It also gives a damage bonus when losing HP, but it's not an additional consumption of HP, so there's no extra charge gained. Even so, it's still a pretty adequate substitute. And while Jingliu's signature, I shall be my own sword, exists, I think it's mostly a trap. It increases crit damage, which is nice, but the stacking damage and def ignore buff only works if everyone other than the wearer is attacked or loses HP. With the taunt on Mydei's ult, He should be the one getting hit most of the time, and the buff only lasts until the next attack, so it's not something that would be up very often anyway. Based on my calculations, it's just a worse option than even some of the 4 stars. Speaking of, there are 3 4 stars that are of any use to Mydei: A Secret Vow, Flames Afar, and Ninja Record Sound Hunt. Of the 3, I believe the best choice to be Ninja Record. All of the 4 stars have a base HP of 1058, but only Ninja Record gives an additional 24% HP increase on top of that. It also gives a 36% crit damage buff when Mydei loses or gains HP, so basically permanently. Hopefully you picked it up from the event, but if not, well, unfortunately you'll have to wait until whenever they add it to the Herda shop in the future. Flames Afar is quite easy to get. You may even have a copy or 2 already, as it's a quest reward from the Penny storyline and from one of the Origami Bird collections. But its damage is objectively lower than Ninja Record, and it's inconsistent due to the 1-turn gap between the end of the damage buff and when it can be reapplied. A Secret Vow at S5 can outpace Ninja Record's damage, but only by about 1%, and only during the small window when the enemy HP is higher than Mydei's. Plus, as a gacha light cone, getting it to S5 is a lot more hassle for such an inconsistent boost. If you don't have Ninja Record, I'd say Flames Afar would be the better option because it's easiest to get, where Secret Vow is at S5 in a better position to do more damage, but only at S5. Anything less and you're better off with Flames Afar. There are also a few 3 stars that you can use if you absolutely must: Collapsing Sky, Mutual Demise, and Shattered Home. Of them, the best option will be Collapsing Sky, which gives a baseline 40% damage buff to skill. But because of the abysmally low base HP for being 3-star light cones, none of them are really worth the resources. You're just better off buying a 4-star from the shop as soon as you can. At the end of it all, I would say to just use Ninja Record, or, if you don't have it, Flames Afar until Ninja Record gets added to the Herda shop. If you happen to have Blades LC and want to let him use that, that's fine too. But the main takeaway should be that his signature isn't really worth the pulls it would take to get. It doesn't introduce any new mechanics to his playstyle, and it doesn't alleviate any egregious problems with his kit like some signatures might. And while we're often loath to admit it, as a DPS, he will likely be power crept, even if not in actual power, most definitely by the arrival of someone new that we'll want to pull for and use instead. So my F2P Husbando recommendation is to skip his light cone and save your pulls for Anaxa and or Phynon. And that extends to his Eidolons as well. E1 makes his super enhanced skill an AoE and increases its damage a bit. E2 gives him Death Ignore while in Vendetta and converts healing he receives into charge. Both are pretty nice quality of life improvements, but not really anything worth spending an entire extra character or two's worth of pulls on. Then E4 is just some more damage, and E6 is almost offensively bad. All it does is make him immediately start battle in Vendetta state. Absolutely not worth it. Obviously, I'm not in charge of you, so you do whatever you want, but my free-to-play Husbando recommendation is to also skip his Eidolons and save your pulls for Anaxa, Phynon, or anyone else that may be surprising us in the future. So, now that we have our sexy man geared up, who do we play him with? Well, at his core, his kit wants him to be taking actual damage. So while you could run him with Aventurine or Japard, his charge won't go up as quickly with shields, so his best teammates will be healers like Luocha and Gallagher. For support, he's a bit hamstrung like Blade, but even worse because he doesn't get anything from buffs to attack percent. Luckily, our best Harmony man is Sunday, who increases crit damage and damage percent. You can also make use of RMC with his crit damage and true damage. Alternatively, you can use debuffers like Jiao Cho to increase damage by applying vulnerabilities. Welt unfortunately conflicts with Mydei due to his imprison and slow, keeping Mydei from being hit. So while he obviously can be run with him, know that there is an anti-synergy there. Because of the way Mydei works vis-a-vis his contentious auto-battle mechanic, he can also be played fairly well in a sub-DPS capacity. For instance, something like Ratio Mydei Luocha Jiao Cho. Or if you're daring, maybe Imbibitor Mydei Luocha Sunday. Sunday would need to be S1 to get enough SP generation and make up for not getting any SP from Mydei, but I've run Imbibitor Blade with some relative success even before I had Sunday, so I imagine Mydei may work about as well, if not better, because Blade uses a skill point every few turns, where Mydei never does. And I'd be remiss to not mention the idea of a Blade Mydei Luocha core with RMC, Jiaocho, or Sunday as support. Admittedly, there aren't many enemies with both wind and imaginary weakness, but it may well be better for Mydei if they aren't imaginary weak, since he won't be imprisoning enemies on break. Along that same vein, running Jingyan, Mydei, Luocha, and Sunday could be pretty solid as well. He's actually pretty versatile overall, and can be used with pretty much anyone. Just keep in mind things that might not be as beneficial as they seem. For instance, while Molza at E2 can be used for his single target crit damage bonus and for his own sub DPS, keep in mind that because Mydei's super enhanced skill is an extra turn and not a follow-up attack, it does not receive any bonuses from Molza's boost to follow-up attack damage. Or, for those who may have them, do note that Jingyu and Jade's HP consumption works for Blade because his kit is based on the number of times he loses HP, no matter the amount. Mydei, however, needs to consume a lot of HP, and the HP consumption from Jingyu and Jade is pitiful for this purpose. That's not to say they can't be run together, just that the benefit of doing so is basically negligible. And who knows, maybe in the future there will be some character who synergizes with him really well. I mean, okay, yeah, obviously her, but no, I'm hoping for someone a little more male. Maybe a preservation character who uses fire to manipulate HP. Or maybe Finon does something that consumes ally HP for some reason. I don't know. A man can dream. In any case, I'm very excited for Mydei. Not only because it's been months since we've gotten a Star Rail Husbando, but also because we've not had a new male main DPS since Boot Hill in 2.2. And even if he's not the fire DPS that I so desperately want/need, I'm very keen to add him to my roster and see what he can do in the wild outside of the story demo. But what about you? Are you planning to pull for Mydei, or are you saving for someone like Anaxa or Finon, or maybe whoever's coming with that Fate collab? Let me know down in the comments. So yeah, that's my first sort of guide video. I know there are plenty of other Mydei guides out there that you could choose to watch, so thank you so much for watching mine. I hope it was informative and in some way entertaining. If you like this sort of thing, feel free to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to see when I post other things of this nature. I try to do a new video every week, and my next video will be my pulls for Mydei, so yeah, maybe you'll want to see how that goes. In any case, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!